Bom dia. Bom dia a todo mundo. Queria dar as boas-vindas para o nosso evento sobre o uso do Facebook para política e por governos. Esse é provavelmente o terceiro evento que a gente faz aqui em Brasília. A gente tem um time dedicado aqui em Brasília a cobrir e fazer esse tipo de treinamento, né? E sempre que a gente pode, a gente traz a Katie Harbath, que é a nossa especialista global no assunto, para trazer um pouco das novidades que estão acontecendo no Facebook e em todo o mundo em relação ao uso inovador da plataforma para engajar com eleitores e para conectar ainda mais as pessoas interessadas nos debates políticos globais. Bem, meu papel aqui é só realmente dar as boas-vindas e apresentar o time. Vocês vão ver aqui duas outras pessoas falando. Uma é a Débora Delbart, que vocês já devem ter tido contato no passado. A Débora fica aqui baseada em Brasília e é o principal ponto de contato. Se vocês precisarem de qualquer coisa, ela é a pessoa que vocês podem falar. E depois a gente vai ter a Katie mostrando um pouquinho dessas novas funcionalidades que a gente tem no Facebook nesse ano. Bem, com isso eu queria apresentar a Débora, despedir de vocês e desejar a todos um bom evento. Obrigado.
Oi, gente, bom dia. Bom, que nem o Bruno já me apresentou, eu sei que eu conheço um monte de vocês. Eu sou Débora Delbart, eu sou do time de políticas públicas e, como bem disse o Bruno, sempre que vocês precisarem de algum auxílio na plataforma, vocês podem recorrer a mim. No final da apresentação, a Katie também vai passar o meu e-mail, tá, o contato, mas para quem já quiser anotar, é politica@fd.com. Outra coisa importante, assim, algumas informações, a gente tem um Wi-Fi liberado aqui, porque a gente sabe que o 4G não pega, a rede é Facebook, obviamente não tem senha. Vamos ter um espaço para perguntas e respostas no final, tá? Então podem ficar tranquilos, podem ir anotando até no bloquinho que vocês receberam, tudo que vocês têm de dúvida. E eu queria agradecer também a participação de todos vocês. Eu sei que terça-feira de manhã sempre é um momento muito crítico no Congresso, né, de muito trabalho, então eu fico muito feliz de ver vocês aqui. E eu queria apresentar a nossa diretora global de políticas públicas, a Katie Harbath. Ela tem uma experiência global, viaja mundo afora para dar esse tipo de treinamento, né? Ela é especialista em campanha política na plataforma, então acho que ela tem realmente muito o que acrescentar hoje. E eu acho que é basicamente isso. Muito obrigada, Katie. Seja bem-vinda.
Obrigada, Deborah. Tudo bem? That's all the Portuguese I know. I'm sorry. Thank you all for joining us today. I just want to extend my thanks as well, knowing how busy it is and how honored I am that you've taken the time to give us this opportunity to walk you through some of the best practices of how we're seeing campaigns and elected officials use Facebook. I want to start with why Facebook even cares about this. And it goes back to our core mission of making the world more open and connected. And we want to help people participate in a more open, connected, and engaging political process. And we have a large audience in which people want to do that. On Facebook itself, we have 1.65 billion monthly active users. And while today I'll just be focusing mostly on Facebook and a little bit on Instagram, we also have WhatsApp and Messenger as part of the Facebook family. And in Brazil, we have 105 million monthly active users. That means they've logged into Facebook at least once in the last 30 days. And 96 million of those primarily access Facebook on a mobile device. We are a mobile-first company. Everything we build is for the phone first, and you should think about being a mobile-first campaign. Everything that you do for your strategies on Facebook, you should be thinking about how it will look on a small screen, not just how it will look like on a desktop computer. And we found that people on Facebook want to talk about these issues. In 2015, we looked at what were the most talked about topics on Facebook. The first one was the US election, and we weren't even a year away from the election day. But we also saw a lot of conversation about the attacks in Paris, the Syrian refugee crisis, the Greek debt crisis. We know that this is a place where people want to have serious conversations. They're not just talking about cats and dogs and the Kardashians. We also know that Facebook is a place where people want to talk about elections. I've been doing this role globally for 3 years, and we've worked in over 15 different countries, and we've measured the conversation in those countries where we look at the number of people and the number of interactions, which is the number of posts, likes, comments, and shares about the candidates and the issues. Brazil's 2014 election is still our second most talked about election on the platform, only behind this current US one. We also have a lot of governments and world leaders on Facebook. 87% of the countries have at least some sort of presence on Facebook. We are beyond the point of having to try to convince people to have a Facebook page, but now we are really working with world leaders and governments on how to best use our platform and how to use some of our new tools. So now I want to go into some of the best practices that we've seen on Facebook and give you all some ideas of how you might use some of our tools on the platform. First, I want to distinguish between a profile and a page. A profile is the type of account all of you probably have individually. It's where you have to send a friend request and somebody has to accept it. A page, people can have unlimited number of fans. You can have multiple people who help administrate it. You can get insights, and you can even do advertising if you want. Today, I'm going to be focusing on Facebook pages because that's the type of account that we recommend that public figures have. I also want to talk a little bit about how our newsfeed algorithm works. What we've found on Facebook is I can make all of you sit here all day, every day, and you still wouldn't be able to read all of the content that you're eligible to see on Facebook. And so our goal is to give people the power to make sure that they are seeing the content that they want to engage with. So there's a lot of different pieces that go into our newsfeed algorithm. But these are 4 that you should think about every time you create a post for your Facebook page. First, when you put up a post on your page, we look at all of your fans and how recently they've engaged with you. And that's usually over the last couple of days. So it's important, if you can, to try to post at least once a day. Or if you don't have enough content to do that, don't allow more than 2 to 3 days to go by in between your posts. Because most people are coming to our platform every day, and if they're not engaging with your content, they're engaging with somebody else's. The next thing we look at is the type of post. We know some people like to look at photos. Some people like to click on links. Some people like to watch video. You don't want to do the exact same type of post on your page over and over and over again. You want to mix it up. So for instance, if your boss is giving a speech, you may first put up a photo of them reviewing the final remarks, maybe in their office or in the car on the way to the event. Then you might live stream their speech on your Facebook page, and I'll talk about our new Facebook Live feature. After that, perhaps the next day you share a link to an article or something on your website with additional information. And then finally, perhaps you do a Q&A with your fans to answer some questions about what it was that your boss talked about. Every time you put up a post, we also look at the total number of interactions it's getting. So that's not just the number of likes, comments, and shares, it's also how many people are clicking on it. And also on mobile, if they are scrolling and they stop to read your post, we also count that, because on a mobile screen, only one story can really be seen at a time, and we think that if somebody's taking the time to read it, that should also be counted. And then finally, we look at, are you talking about something that's trending on the platform? Are you talking about a topic that a lot of other people are also discussing? If so, it's much more likely that you might be shown in the newsfeed to people. So what's the type of content that we've seen work best? One of the first trends that we've seen is that people are using Facebook more and more in which to share news first. So the two stories I have up here, the two examples. The first is the White House. Now, every year, the president is required to give a speech to Congress. And typically, that speech was kept very secret until he actually delivered it. About 2 years ago, the White House started to see how things were changing, about how people were getting their news and information, how less and less people were watching television. And so in the week leading up to this speech, they started doing a series of videos on their Facebook page to talk about some of the initiatives that the president wanted Congress to take on. You probably can't see it, but this video got 7.6 million views, which is really good when you consider that the White House page only had at the time about 300 to 350,000 fans, and only about 6 million people watched it on TV. So they were able to reach a large number of additional people in addition to doing their traditional media strategy. This doesn't have to be an either-or strategy. You should be combining social along with your traditional outreach to the press. And then the other example here is the Argentinian president, Mauricio Macri. He used Facebook. You'll see a lot of examples from him in this presentation. But he's the first president I've ever seen announce his ministry on Facebook, complete with an emoji for every minister. Photos and behind-the-scenes pictures continue to do very well on the platform. People want to see who elected officials are as people, not just who they are as politicians. They want to know who is part of their family, who their friends are. They also want to feel that they are being included in the conversation. So you see with some of these pictures up here that they're all very focused on family, they're not posed, or it's something where the politician is directly addressing their Facebook fans. Engagement is incredibly important on our platform as well. And there's a lot of different ways that engagement can be done on your Facebook page. You can use our new Facebook Live feature like Carly Fiorina did during the US election, where she's just sitting at her kitchen table and she's taking questions from fans as they come into the comment section. Ben Carson, every night while he was a candidate, he would write a long-form piece on his Facebook page answering 3 questions that his fans had submitted that day. And then there's also our traditional face-to-face feature, or also known as Q&A. This is where you can do a post on your page and people can leave questions in the comment section and then you can reply to them. Engagement is so important because people want to be having this conversation, and if people know that there's somebody at least listening to them on the other side of the page, it helps you to have a much more robust conversation and just a better page overall, which will help you to reach more people. And then there's video. So in 2012, that was my first presidential election at Facebook. The big shift that we saw was the shift from desktop to mobile. Now, the big shift we see is into video and mobile video. And While video has been around for quite a while, how people are watching video on Facebook has changed. The first thing that we've seen is that it doesn't have to be highly produced video to get a lot of engagement. Sometimes, even if it's just recorded from your phone, that's perfectly fine. Direct-to-camera video works very well for pre-recorded. It makes your Facebook fans to be an active participant in the conversation, not just a passive observer. The other trend that we've seen with pre-recorded video is you want to include captions or subtitles. We have found that if you do so, people tend to watch video 12% longer. That's because I'm willing to bet there's at least one of you in this audience who's on your phone on Facebook right now. And if you saw a video, you don't want to be that person that clicks on it and starts playing the sound that everybody can hear. But if there's captions, you can at least read along, and thus you'll probably watch it a little bit longer. Then there's our new Facebook Live feature. Fully admit, I'm extremely excited about this feature, especially how I've seen it being used. So Facebook Live, we've seen that people are watching live video 3 times longer than pre-recorded video on Facebook. We recommend that you go live for at least 5 minutes, and you can go live for up to 90 minutes right now on your Facebook page. And we've seen this used in a lot of creative ways. In Spain, we saw 2 parties. Each of their leaders went live on opposite ends of a town square and walked together and ended their dual lives with a hug to show that they were united together in this upcoming election that they're going to do. The same candidate that's up here right now, he also did a Facebook Live Q&A yesterday, I think it was. You can use it to live stream your speeches or even your press conferences. But you don't always have to be just straight on and have the best vantage point. What I love about this middle example from Ted Cruz during the US election is that you feel like you're actually in the front row. You feel like you can still see him, you can still hear him, but it has a lot more of that feel of actually being present at the event versus just watching the live stream online. And then we've seen the Hillary Clinton campaign use Facebook Live as part of voter education efforts. They're using it to teach voters how to get registered, how to caucus, where they can find their polling place to go vote. They've said these have been really successful for them in their voter education efforts. We've also seen Live used by a lot of the media. It's changing how the media is covering elections. We've partnered with a few networks for the primary debates in the US, as well as other debates all around the world. And for the first time during the commercial break, viewers were brought on stage to talk to the moderators and get a sense from them how the debate was going. The funny one about this one with Megyn Kelly, which is the one on the far left, is that if you watched it a little bit longer, Donald Trump makes a little bit of a cameo. We've seen online publications such as BuzzFeed or print publications use Facebook Live to do their own election night analysis, to do their own reporting, to supplement what they're doing online or in print. And then we've seen journalists such as Jorge Ramos, who's with Univision. They don't have a lot of budget. They couldn't send a huge crew to follow the elections. And so it was just him, a producer, an iPhone, and a microphone that he used to report on what was happening in places like Iowa and New Hampshire. And he loved it because he said he thinks he was reaching a lot more people and a lot more new viewers than what he would have just with his broadcast show. So as you're thinking about your own communication strategies and press strategies, also be thinking about how you can potentially do interviews with the media. So just to finish, Jorge Ramos is, when you're thinking about your own press strategies, you can think about working with the media, on even potentially doing interviews on their own Facebook pages. So how do you go live? First, you can do it through your phone. First, make sure that you have the most up-to-date Facebook app downloaded. Then, when you go to write a new post on your page using the Facebook app, you're going to see an icon that looks like a person with two circles behind their head. And it'll probably be in the color red. If you click on that, you can then leave a caption that will tell you more, where you can tell people about what it is that you're live streaming. And then there's the blue Go Live button. That button will only turn blue if you have a good enough connection to actually go live. So I highly recommend that if you want to live stream a speech, you go and check the connection before you actually get started. Then once you're live, we'll show you how many people are watching at that point in time. We'll tell you how long you've been live, and people can leave comments in that comment section or leave questions. Once you're done, and you click the finish button, the video then saves in that exact same post so that people can watch it after the fact. We also have announced a live API. If you have your own live streaming system and your own developers, you can look at connecting into the API yourself. Or there's also a handful of partners that we've worked with that you can also use in which to go live so that you can use a nicer camera, 2-camera shot if you want, add graphics, or even have a little bit more professional sound. You can get more information about all of this on our website at live.fb.com. I wanted to show a couple of setups as well of how we've seen people actually use lives. So this is one of the most simple. This is a reporter who's using a tripod. She's got the connection for the iPhone. There's a lapel mic that is connected into the headphone jack so that the audio is good. And then you can see there's just a circle light on the top. We've also seen much more elaborate setups. This was CNN at one of our debates in the United States, where they had a stabilizer rig, a boom mic, and then the phone connected right into it. I've also seen an iPad be used as a teleprompter to help surface questions to the person that's actually live, so that way they don't have to be trying to read the comments all on their own. I want to switch over also to notes. This is another product that you should think about you can use on Facebook. One thing that we've seen is that people do want to read longer form content on Facebook. They do want to read some of these articles, especially if it's new information that they haven't gotten before. And so you can now write a note on your Facebook page. You can add photos and you can format the text. And this can be something that you can also be publishing. I'll be 100% honest. I've heard mixed reviews about notes. Some people love using the notes format so that they can do bold and italic and underline things. Others, I know, have said they've gotten a lot more success of just putting all of that text in a regular Facebook post and not formatting it. I'd highly recommend that you try both for yourself and see which one works better. But you no longer have to think that all of your text on your Facebook posts have to be short, because that's just going counter to what we've been seeing people read on the platform. There's also our tool called Instant Articles. If any of you have a website or a blog, you can now go to instantarticles.fb.com. And we've got different plugins available if you're using WordPress or Drupal. But you can now do this, and what Instant Articles allows you to do is when you share a link to your website on Facebook and someone clicks on it, it opens up right within Facebook. It's a much faster experience than sending them to your website. You can still use all of your regular analytics on your website to keep track of how many people are reading it and clicking on it and all of that. But we've seen quite a few publishers use this, and it's really open to anyone. A couple of other just tips and tricks that I wanted to share. I get a lot of questions about how to manage comments. How do you manage people who are commenting on your posts who might not be saying the nicest things in the world? So one thing we recommend is that you have a comments policy on your page. This is an example of what it could look like, but it's basically being transparent to your fans about how you're going to moderate comments, if you're going to delete them, or hide them, or block people. We find that if you're transparent with your fans about the type of community you want to have, when you do finally ban somebody, you've got something to point to as a policy that you were using when you made that decision. You can also do page moderation. So you can add different words into our moderation block list so let's say I put the word puppy on my page, and then you go to my page and you comment, I want a puppy. You as an admin, I will see it as the person who posted it, my friends will see it, and you as an admin will see it, but nobody else will. And then we also have a profanity filter. This allows you to turn on low or high, and this will help prevent swear words from appearing as comments on your pages. And then the last tool I want to just very briefly touch on is our Pages messaging tool. This is something we've recently allowed pages to turn on, and it allows people to send you a private message via your page. I would recommend you only turn this on if you have the resources in which to answer people. If you don't have the resources to answer these, don't turn them on. But if you do, I've heard them being used as a great source for customer service, for answering questions. You want to keep the responses short because it's going into Messenger, and provide people a link, maybe back to a site or somewhere else where they can get more information. You can also turn on an instant reply, so that way people can know how long they should expect it to take for them to get an answer. So let me walk you through some of the case studies that we've seen of how campaigns around the world at all levels have used our platform. The first I want to point out is from Canada, Justin Trudeau. They had their election last October, and by using Facebook, they estimate that they were able to reach 13 million people in Canada. And they were able to get a very low cost on video views for what they were doing. Mauricio Macri in Argentina again. They really wanted to use Facebook to recruit volunteers. They needed people to help get folks to the voters to the polling place. And they figured that they registered 350,000 volunteers through their Facebook efforts. And then in the United Kingdom, David Cameron and Conservatives ended up winning a much larger majority last May than what anybody expected. And they contribute a lot of that reason to Facebook. And the fact that they were able to get 3.5 million video views on what they were posting, as well as how precise they were able to target to the specific voters that they wanted to make sure they could reach. And it's not just world leaders who are using Facebook effectively in their campaigns. In Toronto, Canada, the mayor there used Facebook to reach over 160,000 people, and they registered about 1,000 people on his website. And then in Mexico, this was a gubernatorial campaign. They used Facebook to reach over 1.1 million voters. They had 71,000 more votes than the closest opponent. And when she started her campaign, she was not very high in the polls, and it was a 24-point turnaround, a 7-point victory overall for this candidate in Mexico, and it's something they contribute a lot to how they used Facebook to reach voters and to help them win that election. Let me shift very quickly to Instagram. Instagram's a tool that we also can work with you on to use. And I'm going to show some examples from the US election, but we really view Instagram as that front row seat and that backstage pass for people. It's a visual platform. It's a place where you're going to be showcasing photos and increasingly video. And we are seeing more and more people using the platform to document their experiences in this election, whether it's voting, meeting the candidates, or talking with their friends. And we've seen the candidates use this in a variety of ways. Donald Trump has been doing a series of Instagram videos, just direct to camera from his desk, talking directly to his fans. Bernie Sanders was using Instagram to teach young people how to vote. He has the support of a lot of first-time voters, and he needs to make sure that they're registered and that they can actually vote for him on election day. And so he was using Instagram to do some of that voter education. And then Hillary Clinton has been doing a series of what's called Instagram takeovers, where she has celebrities such as Katy Perry or President Bill Clinton or her daughter Chelsea take over her Instagram account for a day where they're sharing pictures from their day on the campaign trail and putting it in their own voice. So let me now talk just a little bit as well about insights and how you measure success. So I'm shifting back to Facebook here. This is an example of the dashboard, the insights dashboard that I bet a lot of you are familiar with on any of the Facebook pages that you might manage. I get a lot of questions about how do I know if my Facebook strategy is working? What should I be looking at? The number that I think you should focus on the most is the reach number. That's the number of people in the last 7 days who have seen your content. And I bet a lot of you saw during the election, or you do see during very busy times, that you're probably reaching more people than the number of fans you have. And that's pretty typical of what I see for a very healthy page that's getting a lot of engagement and that's talking about a lot of the issues and things in the news that a lot of other people are also discussing. The other thing too is you're going to have some weeks where your reach is up and some weeks where your reach is down. I think to judge success, you need to look over a 12 to 6 month period and look at the overall trend to see if it's going upward to make sure that you are on the right path. But it's not always going to be just a straight up trajectory because you're not in the news every week. There's not something newsworthy always happening, but it's important to be posting so you maintain that engagement so that those people are there when you need them to be and when you have something to announce or something that you need to tell them. We also show you the time of day that people are on Facebook. Most people are on our platform between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. So if you have something that's not time sensitive, you should consider shifting your posting strategy to be a little bit later in the evening. If you're thinking about doing a Q&A or a live Q&A, think about doing it in the evening versus the morning. Now use this as a guideline, not as a really strict rule. If you have a speech that's happening at 9 a.m., post right away, live stream it. Being real time is a lot more important than trying to wait when you think most of your fans are going to be on Facebook. So let me end with a couple of recommended strategies and then we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A. So first, make sure you identify your goals of your Facebook strategy before you get started and also think about it for every single post. Is your goal just to get the most amount of reach? Are you trying to get video views? Or are you trying to get email signups? Far too often I see campaigns try to ask people to do 3 different actions in a post, which is just way too many, and most people are only going to do one of them. So make sure you're optimizing for the one that's most important to you. Think about creating a content calendar where you look at the next 3 to 6 months, look at what upcoming holidays there are, other major events. Think through when it might be good to try using Facebook Live, or when it might be good to try to do a Q&A. Remember to combine your social media strategies with your traditional media strategies. Think about, is there a time where maybe it's more appropriate to announce something on Facebook first versus sending out a press release? Think about, is there a time that you may want to pitch an interview with a reporter where it happens online and then can also be reprinted in print, or it can also be put out on broadcast. But no longer should these two be siloed. You should be thinking about these strategies together. Before you start focusing on any of our tools, and there's a lot of them out there, make sure you focus first on having good content. Good content is the first thing that you need to make sure that you have before you can start thinking about how you can start really targeting different people or using some of our other tools on the platform. Don't forget to engage your fans. Don't forget to, even if it's as simple as answering them in the comments and answering a question or saying thank you for your support. Letting people know that there's somebody paying attention to what they're saying goes such a far way in terms of helping people to trust what is happening on your page and to want to keep coming back. And then make sure you're constantly testing and improving and rethinking your Facebook strategy. I'm sure it annoys many of you when we make some of these changes and you wish that we could just keep it all the same and not change it at all. But there's a reason that we're constantly evolving. And it's because how people are consuming content on our platform is constantly changing. I talked about in 2012, it was that big shift from desktop to mobile. Right now, it's video. And so we're changing with how people are changing, and you also need to think about how you need to adapt your strategies for that as well. What worked for you even 6 months ago may not work for you today. And then just a couple more. Don't just focus on page likes. Please also look at reach and engagement. I've seen it happen before where there's a political page with a lot of fans and it's assumed to be the one doing the best on the platform, but they're getting little to no engagement. A fan isn't worth anything if they're not seeing your content. Learn from your posts that don't do well. Not everything is going to go viral. And so you can learn from those posts that maybe don't get as much reach or engagement. Think about what you can try next time and keep testing for a little bit to see what the right combination is and what it is your fans want to see on your Facebook page. Pay attention to trending topics and what's happening in the news. If it makes sense for you to post about it, you should. I was just doing a training last week in New Orleans, Louisiana, to some local elected officials. And one told me about how when Prince died, they actually found his great-grandfather's birth certificate in their archives. And so they posted that on Facebook. And it was a great way for them to be a part of this global story about Prince's death, but to localize it to their fans. Use Facebook to test messages. Many of you probably are trying to figure out what messages work the best with voters. Which ones should you be using in your traditional communication strategy? What should you be using for your talking points? Facebook can be a place for you to test those and see which ones get the most engagement to help you understand which ones might resonate more with the overall public. Optimize for those identified goals that I mentioned. Listen to your audience. Don't just engage with them, but actually listen to what they're saying. And then finally, just look for trends over time. Look for things that you see that tend to be working with your fans and try more of those and see how you can continually adapt them for your page.